True Crime Arizona concerns tonight about the Phoenix Police Department's cold case homicide unit. The department confirms there are thousands of unsolved cold case homicides.
And the unit's staffing is less than half of what it was more than a decade ago. It has families frustrated as they wait for justice for their loved ones. True Crime correspondent Brianna Whitney looked into what is going on. What'd you find out?
When I first saw these numbers, I thought this can't be right. And then we reached out to the department and they confirmed they were true. And there is just so much disappointment from both former Phoenix investigators and families whose cold cases are sitting on the shelves right now. Phoenix PD tells me the issue is an overall shortage of officers, but a former detective in that unit says with almost no one left in the cold case squad, if a murder isn't solved within 1 year, there's no telling when that case will be looked at again. The infamous Canal murders, a 1990s cold case solved by Phoenix PD in 2015, when now former Detective Troy Hillman was heading up the unit. His team's work led to the arrest of the man known as the zombie hunter, Brian Patrick Miller. That was one of many decades-old cases that unit was solving together years ago.
Things were just, again, firing on all cylinders when we were clearing a lot of cases.
But now Hillman says the legacy he and his team left is nearly gone at Phoenix PD. Phoenix police confirming our numbers. Between 2009 and 2016, the cold case homicide squad had 6 detectives, 2 volunteers, and about 2,500 cold case homicides. Hillman says that unit was disbanded after 2016 due to leadership changes, and in 2020 he was asked to fire it up again because of how important it was. Yet now in 2024, Phoenix PD confirming they have just 1 detective in the unit and 2 civilian investigators for more than 3,000 cases.
To have that just thrown away twice now, 2016, and now it sounds like again, it's just devastating.
In comparison, Yavapai County Sheriff's Office, a much smaller department, tells me they have 6 cold case volunteers who work in partner capacity with detectives, and they have just 20 cold case homicides and missing persons cases. Just 1 case alone. How much work is that for a detective?
It takes anywhere from, depending on the size of the case, from 4 to 8 hours just to review a case and digest it. If there's leads, if there's stuff that needs to be followed up on, if you need to talk to the lab, that kind of thing, it could take weeks.
Phoenix PD says with the officer shortage, their specialty details are working with vacancies and say they anticipate to add more to the unit, but don't have a timeline on that. We're seeing advanced technology. We're seeing DNA play a huge part. Wouldn't now be the time to strike?
Yes. You have to have leaders from the top down that care about not only cold case, but also regular homicide, because if they're not worked correctly on the front end and there's not enough staffing, then they're going to become cold cases.
No one more affected by this than victims' families. The cold case murder of Jeffrey Bellemare, a security guard killed while working in Maryvale, still a mystery more than a decade later. His widow sending us this statement: "I am so disappointed, angry, and saddened to hear the priority of solving cold cases has been neglected. My family and I have been waiting 10 years for justice in my husband, Jeffrey Bellemare's case. There have been numerous detectives that worked his case over the years, all of whom we greatly appreciate. They have had very little time and little help. They deserve better than this, and so do we."
Those numbers are staggering and jaw-dropping.
Right.
So, of course, they need more detectives, right? But talk to me a little bit more about these civilian investigators.
That's a good way to go, because normally a civilian investigator is a former detective or somebody who was in law enforcement, may have retired, but still wants to work. So they can hire them on. It's a paid job. They usually have a lot of experience. They just don't carry a gun. They might not go serve a search warrant. That's dangerous. But when it comes to cold cases, that is such a great role because there's so much reviewing and going back and submitting to the lab. And so that would be a good direction if there wasn't a detective that they could move. But Troy Hillman was saying before he left that there was hundreds, if not 1,000 applications for civilian investigators. So his question is, where are they?
Right.
Why are they
and
not?
What happened?
What happened to them? And they wouldn't all be in the cold case homicide unit, but you would think some of them would be. And so, yeah, what's happening there? It sounds like it's a shortage of officers, but that's really affecting some of these most high-profile cases.
And you've done stories on how effective they've been elsewhere. Was it Yavapai County or Coconino County where they helped crack a case recently? The volunteers
Yes,
did. Yeah.
multiple of them. It's Yavapai County, the ones that have the 6 volunteers for 20 cases. That's a much different caseload than the 3,000 plus cases
and
at
some
Phoenix.
of them were school teachers or along those lines,
yes,
right?
school teachers are somebody, I think, in a politics background.
Right.
So sometimes those backgrounds can be really beneficial to bringing new eyes to a case. But yes, YCSO was solving the Kathy Sposito long-time murder, the Little Miss Nobody case. We have seen these come up in these years past with YCSO. They're having tremendous success with that. So, I mean, it goes to show it works when you have the people who have the eyes on the cases.
Right.
It's made a difference. Brianna,
Huge.
thanks.
Yeah.
Interesting story.